The honourable member for Calgary-Lahi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. As the Child Intervention Panel continues its invaluable and hopefully life-saving work, Albertans continue to hear about the disparity in outcomes faced by our Indigenous children. No one is disputing that this government or previous governments care deeply about all children in care. However, this painfully obvious gap in outcomes must be addressed as quickly as possible. So to the Minister of Indigenous Relations, when will the Indigenous children of Alberta experience the same level of care and similar outcomes as non-Indigenous Albertans?
The Honourable Minister of Indigenous Relations.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you very much for the question. We are obviously very concerned about the gap that has been created in this province between Indigenous children and non-Indigenous children by the previous governments over the last literally 100 years in this province. And we've been working very hard closely with each of the bands and councils to develop plans to look at economic prosperity, to look at social changes, and to bring all of that together under the United Nations Declaration for the Rights of Indigenous People. We're very proud of the fact that we are a party and a government that is committed to these people.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. First supplementary.
Looking forward to hearing timelines. Now, given that Indigenous children are subject to particularly poor outcomes in these and other regards, as the Minister knows, and given that much of the funding required to address this issue comes from the federal government, again to the Minister, with great respect, what specific commitments have you secured from your federal counterpart in order to assist in rapidly closing this gap in outcomes that are experienced by Indigenous youth here in the province?
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you very much for the question. We, of course, do believe that the federal government has great responsibility for the Indigenous people in this province, and as a result, we've had multiple meetings over the last couple of years with the minister, the federal minister, and all of their departments, so that we can ensure that the programs that we are putting together in this province do indeed address not just simply the services required by the Indigenous community, but the gap between where the services have been provided in the past by other governments and what we are able to provide now.
Minister, second supplementary.
Again, we're very interested in specifics. Now, given that a culturally competent workforce clear across government is an integral aspect of an effective public service for all Albertans, and given that the Children's Intervention Panel, along with the July 2016 Auditor General's report, highlight the need for increased cultural understanding within government, again to the Minister, as I've asked on a number of other occasions, please tell us what new initiatives have you implemented to address the low levels of First Nations representation amongst employees of all government departments and beyond?
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for the question. We, of course, have accepted all of the Auditor General's recommendations. We're committed to working with Indigenous people. We additionally have worked with Indigenous communities to help us establish protocol agreements in which all of the ministers here in this House are meeting with Indigenous communities from across northern Alberta, and soon we will have protocol agreements from the rest of Alberta. And in those protocol agreements and at those tables, we will have the opportunity to address specific programs required and asked for by the Indigenous community. That's consultation.